Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 7 of the East Pittsburgh Fitness Podcast. I'm your host, Jeremiah Rowe, head strength coach at Case Specific Wellness and Case Specific Athletics here in Plum, Pennsylvania. We specialize in individualized sports performance and personal training for everyone from the average Joe to elite athletes. You can learn more about what we do here at www.casespecificwellness.com. And of course, don't forget to also go over and check out Case Specific Nutrition at www.casespecificnutrition.com for nutrition counseling for any goal. We have a team of registered dietitians all over the Pittsburgh area who are awesome at what they do and love helping people like you reach your goals in a sustainable and enjoyable way that works for your case-specific lifestyle. Again, that website is www.casespecificnutrition.com, or you can find us on Facebook and Instagram at Case Specific Nutrition. Now, have you ever woken up to the sound of your alarm blasting in your ear to tell you that it's time to get up and get ready for another long work day? And after wasting an inordinate amount of time on your phone checking social media, you stumble your way out of bed into the kitchen and you start making breakfast. And then while you're cooking your first meal of the day, you realize that you don't have any food prepared for the other meals of the day. And then you kick yourself for not making food the night before or over the weekend when you weren't on a tight schedule. But then you remember that you hate cooking food and preparing meals ahead of time so much that it's as though the devil came up with that idea himself. Well, lucky for you, there's case-specific meal prep. CSMP aims to provide healthy, cost-effective, and delicious meals to you, hard-working, busy folks who, if you relate to the story of my mornings at all, don't have time to waste on something as tedious as meal preparation. CSMP works closely with Case-Specific Nutrition dietitians to provide clients with nutrient-rich meals that align with caloric, performance, and weight management goals. So if you're tired of spending hours in the grocery store and cooking at home, check them out on Facebook and Instagram at Case-Specific Meal Prep, where you can find the link to the website. Or if you're really good at listening, you can go directly to case-specific-meal-prep.myshopify.com. And while you're scouring the internet for delicious meals like buckwheat, noodles, and steamed bok choy, I'm going to slide right into today's show, which is going to be a discussion with the Starbucks-obsessed, nacho-loving, fly sneaker-wearing, gains-getting, CEO wifing up, Mrs. Allison Wizzy Wade. Not only is she the wife to our very own CEO, Mr. Andrew Wade, but she is herself a registered dietitian working for the Case-Specific brand. More importantly, though, is that she is a certified gym bro. Allison, it is great to have you on. Welcome to the show.
Wow. That intro, the Starbucks and the sneaker thing, I think were the most important things you could have said there.
You don't think the nachos?
Nachos, I mean, that's pretty important, but I like to be known for being obsessed with Starbucks and wearing nice shoes.
Yes, I am pretty sure that you spend way more than my entire salary on Starbucks each year. And it makes me want to throw up, but I love you for it.
Yeah, it's something I'm working on, but
working on increasing. That's what she means by
the
that.
dietitian part, not that important, but it's important that people really get to know me that way.
Yeah, just know the real you. Yeah, food is great, but Starbucks is great.
Yeah, that's my guilty pleasure. I'm not a big alcohol drinker. I don't gamble. I don't have a lot of bad habits, so I spend a little extra on my coffee.
That's fair. For the record, I enjoy a $1.07 McDonald's iced coffee more than anything else in the world. So
yeah, we'll probably debate that for the rest of our lives, but it's okay. Difference of opinion.
Hey, yeah, we gotta have them. That's what makes us human.
But yeah, part of that intro, me being a dietitian, I think is probably the main reason that you brought me on. But a lot of people don't know we work together at the Plum office, so we get to spend most days together working out and just hanging out as well.
Picking on each other, yeah. It's a fun time. We have a good time here. But I would argue that we'll keep dietitian as the main reason I brought you in here, but that certified gym bro part, like, that is important to today's show.
Well, I'm glad I have that title.
Yes, thank goodness. Because this is something that I have been wanting to discuss in a formal setting for a while. And I don't want to address it. I didn't want to address it on my own because I just don't feel like it would be coming from the right source. And that subject is women and weights. And I think there's a stigma out there that of what happens when women lift weights. And every year I feel like, all right, we're getting away from this. Like, this is going to be going away. But then every week it seems like I'm talking to a new potential client, a female who comes in and she's, I don't want to lift weights. I don't usually lift weights because I don't want to get bulky. I don't want to look like a man. And it drives me freaking nuts, to be quite honest. Because, well, there's a whole host of reasons, really, that we're going to discuss today. But I know that the gains queen over here, Allison, has quite a few things, I'd imagine, to say about that.
Well, yeah, I think I can speak from personal experience, but also from a perspective of a lot of the clients that I work with, because that's something that I do recommend to a lot of people, and the importance of, and even if they're not looking to necessarily gain muscle, but even just to maintain the lean muscle mass that they have, and the importance of that, and how that affects the metabolism and, keeps our bones strong and healthy, as we get older. And so that's one thing. I think a lot of people are hesitant, whether they just don't know what to do, or I get the comments, I don't want to bulk up. I don't want to have a ton of muscle on my body. And I think cardio tends to be the easier route, because I don't know if it's just more so because it's accessible anywhere. So you get a lot of people who are like, I run a couple times a week, or I walk, I hike. But then I also get the people that they go to the gym and they spend maybe an hour to 2 hours just doing straight cardio, which, we can assume their resting heart rate is, amazing and they're in great cardiovascular shape. But a lot of times I think they're looking for a certain look where they want to look, I think we're going to talk about the word toned in a few minutes here.
Bad word.
But they want that lean, muscular look, and I think, and I'm an example of that. In college, I went to Pitt, and so I walked a ton just around campus. You had to walk up a huge hill just to get to the gym, and then I would spend over an hour probably doing cardio. Didn't really know my way around the weights as much. Started to learn and get into it some, but not to the degree I think of where I'm at now. Am I where I want to be? Absolutely not. But I will say I spend way more time lifting weights now than, over the last few years than I ever have in my life. And I really enjoy it. And I've seen more progress just with my own body from doing that. And I will always love cardio because I like it as a, stress reducer, clear my mind. It's enjoyable to me, but I've just changed how I've done that. I'm not just out there trying to run miles and miles and miles, whether it's to burn off calories or thinking that that's going to give me that desired look that I want. So, yeah. But I can attribute a lot of what I've learned in building muscle to you, because you've shown me a lot of, new exercises and, wrote me some training plans and things like that, which we can talk about. But
yeah,
I think today's topic is a really good one.
Yeah, and we're going to bring that back around to a more open discussion format where we can kind of go back and forth a little bit. But I want to circle back a little bit to where you said you've been lifting for how long now? How long have you been? Seriously?
I mean, I would say lifting at least 5 days a week heavy for maybe the past 3 to 4 years, pretty consistently.
So 3 to 4 years, 5 days a week. And you said you're nowhere near where you want to be. And I don't think there's a person who's going to look at you and say that you look manly or that you look intimidating.
Yeah.
But, and I'd pick on you because you definitely have some muscle mass on you. And I don't even want to say I pick on you, but I'll walk into the gym to start yelling about Allison's biceps or her back looking shredded or whatever. But it's again, all these years that you've been training hard, training heavy, and still not where you want to be physically, which we both know that you are not trying to look like a man in a scary body.
Yeah, I'm not out trying to put on mass like The Rock, but I think everybody in their mind has like a visual of, you know, hey, I want my arms to be a little more bulky, or I want my legs. You know, I just made that comment to you, like, oh, I really want to be able to see more definition in my quads. You know, there's things, and I think everybody has those critiques within themselves. Do I definitely enjoy lifting, and am I going to continue it? Yes, but that's where like that guidance from you comes in, like, hey, how can you help me create a program that I can do that? And even with following what you've been doing and lifting pretty heavy, like, yes, I've put on muscle, but like you said, I haven't put on muscle to a degree of like people are going to look at me and think that, you know, yes, I can't fit in my clothes anymore because I have, you know, such huge muscles.
Correct. Not yet. We'll work on it. Well, with that, I want to slide right into this idea, because I think that if someone that you didn't know saw you on the street, they weren't necessarily super familiar with exercise and fitness, I would bet that they would describe you as toned.
Yeah.
And like we said, we want to address that toned idea right now. And so give me a little look into what you would say to someone who told you they wanted to get toned.
Yeah, I think that's one of those buzzwords, toned, and I'm sure I've used it in the past. And, you know, when somebody might describe, you know, their look, you know, and I get that a lot. Yeah, I just want to be more toned. There's really no exercise that exists that, you know, makes the muscle just leaner or longer and gives you that look. But your options really become, hey, we can build muscle, and hey, we can lose some body fat, because that muscle needs to be built to see that muscle, but then we have to lose that fat around that area to expose that muscle. So that's where that combination of the right type of exercise and diet come in. If somebody is trying to build muscle, then they need to be, you know, which you can speak on, but obviously lifting heavier weights and, you know, fatiguing that muscle so it can repair and regrow bigger. And, you know, if they have a little extra body fat, you know, that's within the diet where we can still create a slight calorie deficit, feed them appropriately, so they have energy in the gym, they can hit it hard. But we can still cut back on the calories some, where we can start shredding some of that fat that surrounds that muscle. What do you typically say to people when they say those things to you?
Well, I mean, honestly, I love the approach you took on that. We talked about this a little bit before we started the recording here, and we're just kind of flying by the seat of our pants there, hoping that we're on the same wavelength for this discussion on a couple things. We know we are, but that you hit it on the head there with the toning, where that suggests, like you said, one of two things. We either need to build muscle, or we need to lose fat, or a combination of each. And generally, that combination is going to be what is the best approach for most of the population. Now, me coming from the exercise science background that I do, I take a more I don't want to say mean, but a more forward approach to it, because tone is completely, like you said, you said it's a buzzword, but it's a completely made up term. This is something that was made up in the the 80s and the 90s maybe, that was a way for men, or not even men, but like the fitness industry in general, to tell women, hey, we want you to look this way. We don't want you to look manly, you need to be feminine, like you need to be toned, blah blah blah. But muscle tone is actually just your body's, or your muscle's natural tensive state. So if I'm sitting in this chair right now with my arms relaxed down on my sides, though I'm sitting in a relaxed position, my muscles still have a minimum amount of tension that they are contracting to, and that is what muscle tone actually is, which is completely unrelated to this idea of toning muscles. Like you said, there's no exercises that make muscles longer or leaner or anything, but it's just what women, I think, would describe as toning is actually building muscle and getting leaner. Like, that is the look that they're going for. They just don't understand what that is, or what that actually means. And so I think this is a good transition, or a good place to let's head down this road of what actually happens when you exercise. What is the process of building muscle? What causes muscle growth? So when we exercise, we break muscle down. The harder you work and the more volume that you do lifting weights, the more you break down the muscle. And when you do that, your body perceives that damage, and it says, okay, this hurts. This is causing me pain, and I'm this is breaking down. So I need to strengthen myself to fight against that damage. So what it does is it uses the food that you eat and the time you take sleeping and relaxing, recovering, to rebuild and overcompensate for that damage. So just to use random numbers that mean literally nothing, let's just say you impose 20% damage to your muscles. And so after that, you eat, you go to sleep, your body says, okay, 20% damage, again, these numbers mean nothing. We are going to rebuild this to 30% or 10% beyond what it was, so that next time this happens, we won't break down so bad. And so, again, you get that rest, that food, your body adds protein, it adds substance to your muscle fibers, essentially, and they grow, or with what we call hypertrophy. Now, there's two things required for that to make these muscle fibers grow. And I said them both, but just to emphasize, recovery and food. If you're not sleeping, you're not allowing your body to rebuild, you're not going to build muscle. If you don't eat a sufficient calorie intake, you're not going to build muscle, or at least not effectively to the extent of becoming bulky or manly. And so that's why I want to pass the baton off to Allison a little bit here to kind of continue on that thought, because I think particularly in a population of women, food is scary. And at the same time that women want to be toned and have that lean look, they're afraid to eat because they don't want to get fat or they don't want to get big and bulky. And so I think you can address that pretty well, I'm sure, as the registered dietitian that you are.
Yeah, and I'll get a lot of people that even, hey, I had dinner, I went to the gym, I worked out, I did a spin class, I did all these things. I burned, 400 calories. I can't go home and eat because, those are 400 calories I burned. And we need to look at it as more what that process is. And the whole act of that exercise, like you just explained, we're eliciting that damage to the muscle. So the important part becomes that meal after the exercise that's giving those nutrients to allow that muscle to rebuild. Now there's obviously varying levels of exercise. If you just went for a walk around the neighborhood, we don't need a big post-workout meal. But if we're, lifting heavy weight, spending a good amount of time and effort at the gym, then it's important that we get something in. And what I say, because a lot of times there's maybe a lack of appetite or just depending on the time of the day, we can look at doing things in more of liquid calories if we need to, or, finding something that's going to work with that person. But yeah, the important pieces of that meal that would come before the exercise and the important part of that meal that comes after the exercise, that pre-workout meal, as we would call it, is what's going to give you that energy to go to the gym. So we want you to have enough energy that you can lift heavier weights, that you can sprint faster, that you can squat a little heavier. A lot of times when we don't have something coming in, we may notice a weaker, more fatigued workout, and so we're not pushing those limits and allowing for that maximal muscle growth. Now, for the early morning exercisers, because this is always a question, I work out at 5 or 6 a.m., I don't want to eat before. There's ways we can work around that we can try to incorporate something the night before. So we have adequate carb stores going into that workout. But for the general person who has time to eat before and after, the most important thing in both the before and after workout meal is going to be, let's see if you can finish the sentence.
Carbohydrates.
You have learned something. Yeah, so carbs, which,
Now, hold on. I have to stop you here, because carbs are bad, right?
Yeah, they're so bad.
So bad.
They taste so good.
Let's talk about how bad carbs are.
So when you look at carbs and a lot of the general recommendations that are out there for people, it's, most diets are a low carb, keto, Atkins, and really those not necessarily just those diets, because I will say they do have application for some people, which we're not going to get into, but we'll just say in general, a lower carb diet is applicable for your average American who, hey, I wake up, I drive to work, I sit at a desk all day, I come home, I eat dinner, I sit and watch TV in the evening. Very little energy expenditure. That's the type of person that they still need some carbs, but we don't need extra or an exorbitant amount of carbs. When we're talking about an athletic population, somebody who exercises, somebody who wants to build muscle, improve performance, athletes, etc., carbs are the most important macronutrient in their diet and should, be a majority of where their calories are coming from. So I always describe carbs as like the key that kind of unlocks the muscle, so then our protein can come in and start rebuilding and repairing that muscle. So if I'm, and I'll just use myself as an example, if I'm going to work out at 8 or 9 in the morning, whenever I get up, whatever that breakfast that I'm going to have before I go to the gym is going to have mostly carbohydrates, a little bit of protein and or fat in it. Because as we get closer to exercise, we don't want a meal that's too high in protein and fat because it sits in the stomach a little bit longer. Again, we could get very deep into this conversation, but in general, think of it as some toast with a little peanut butter, maybe a glass of milk, or with a banana, something like that. Something with some carbs that are going to give us energy to go into that workout. After the workout, we need to rebuild and repair that muscle, as we talked about. Again, carbohydrates are going to be what unlocks that muscle, so I want mostly carbohydrates, but we need to make sure protein is a part of that meal. What's an example of one of your post-workout meals that you might have?
I don't know if I'm a good person to go to for
when
this.
When you're eating well.
When I'm eating well, listen, I'm a bodybuilder at heart, so everything that I eat is either eggs or chicken and rice.
Yeah.
So
your eggs would be your protein, right? But you're going to consume more.
All right, so yeah, let's say if I am getting ready in the morning to go into work, and I know I'm going to have 2-3 clients before I get to my own workout, I'm going to have, I cut up 2 potatoes, I slice them up, fry them in a pan, and I make 3 or 4 whole eggs and 2 to 3 egg whites. I beat those together and I cook them with the potato, and then I eat that with 4 pieces of toast.
Okay, so and since we're talking about females, again,
yes,
you're not eating that much.
Example here.
But the point I want to make is, I think we can agree there's a good amount of carbohydrates in that meal, and so we were kind of getting into that post-workout meal, and a lot of things, again, you're in that bodybuilder mindset, but I'm going to use you as an example where you might have rice and chicken, hopefully some vegetables in there, but usually not. But
there's just no room because there's so much rice.
What we have, the point I'm trying to get across is that we're seeing mostly carbs with a little bit of protein. So typically that ratio is going to end up being either a 2-to-1 or 3-to-1 ratio of carbs to protein, just depending on the type of training. Were we doing, heavy explosive movements? Was there any cardio involved? Were we sprinting? So the more cardiovascular activity, higher heart rate stuff, usually I'll go more to that 3-to-1 ratio. And that could look like a bowl of oatmeal with some eggs on the side and some fruit, or, if you're somebody that uses a protein powder, that's, my go-to, just because it's quick and easy. And so it's looking like some oats for me with some blueberries, a scoop of protein powder, and maybe some peanut butter or nuts in there. And so that's that general concept and trend of how that meal should be built, and not skimping on those calories and carbs, especially around exercise. As we get later in the day, if you're a morning exerciser, again, depending on what your goals are, we want to make sure there's adequate fuel coming in before and after. And if we're going to lighten up any meals, I'd rather that be like that dinner meal, that meal that's further away, or vice versa. If you're an evening exerciser, then, it's got to be a good afternoon snack with some carbs, some, Greek yogurt and fruit, and, maybe heading into that workout, and post-workout, maybe we're having dinner. If you're going home to eat dinner, we don't need to add an extra shake, right after the gym. We can go home, have a nice piece of chicken with a sweet potato and some vegetables or a salad, and that works just fine as that recovery meal.
I like that you brought up the protein shake thing, and I definitely want to circle back to that. But before we do, we're having this discussion about, suddenly it sounds like carbs are the best thing that is sliced bread.
Yeah.
And so, why is it that carbs get such a bad reputation as this horrible food group that causes everybody to be fat?
Yeah, I think it's because a lot of the convenience foods that exist are all carbs, and we look at the types of carbs that are out there. I'm not saying go home from the gym and eat, a box of Fruity Pebbles or a real sugary cereal,
Some gummy worms.
Yeah, some gummy worms. Like, again, is there places for all those fun carbs, pretzels and chips and, your more processed carbs in the diet? Absolutely. But if you look at, in general, the things that exist, type 2 diabetes, the correlation is, increased intake of a lot of those refined processed carbs. And so if we look at eating good, complex, slow digesting carbs throughout the day, that's what keeps you fuller, blood sugar stable, and that's what's going to help you build and recover those muscles. And so I think it's just a combination of the types of foods that exist. You see, hey, somebody's busy at work, they need something quick, they go to the vending machine, they go to the convenience store, and what they're grabbing is carbs. So yeah, if your diet consists of a ton of that stuff and you have a sedentary lifestyle, you're going to gain weight. And so I think that's where it stemmed from, and then just the existence of a lot of, the diets that came out that have kind of just given them a negative connotation.
Yeah, it really is. It's so easy to eat carbs, and it's so funny. If you're not paying attention and not conscientious of your actual food intake and you're not counting calories or your macronutrients, you don't notice it as much. But for me in particular, I know, like, at the end of the day, I can crush carbs all day long and not think anything about it, not think twice. But then I realized at the end of the day that my protein intake is 50, 100 grams under where I need it to be. But I can't just smack that much protein in one sitting. I can eat 100, 200 grams of carbs like it's nothing. And it's easy, it's easily accessible, like you said. But to find that amount of protein that I'm behind is really difficult, and you realize,
and it's hard to eat that much at one sitting.
Yeah, right. Not only just eating it at one sitting though, but just you realize how throughout the day how much easier it had been for you to just stack your carbohydrates up like crazy and neglect your protein. Really, fat's another one that's pretty easy to find because it's in so many foods, and particularly that easily accessible, processed, refined stuff.
And with the carbs and probably a lot of the convenience carbs, the other issue is they're not filling. They lack fiber, they lack the protein and things that actually keep you full. If you look at, grab a bag of pretzels and, the serving's 10 pretzels, I think most people will tell you they're hungrier after eating the pretzels than before. And that's because of how fast that they're broken down and digested. So when somebody's diet consists of more of those things, they crave more of it, they're going to overeat it. But when you truly focus on including those slower digesting carbs, most people are surprised they feel fuller, they don't have as much of the cravings, their meals stick with them for a few hours. I get so many people, I just have a salad with some chicken for lunch, and then by 2 o'clock we're grabbing candy bars and stuff because we did not get that carbohydrate that we needed, and so then we're searching for it, and then we take in the real simple sugars that we're hungrier and hungrier, and then we're craving more of those things. So yes, there's places, like I said, for the fun carbs, but we have to have a good foundation. Somebody who, and especially a female who wants to build muscle, that's an important part of doing that and kind of having a plan to follow. Just understanding that and spreading it out throughout the day.
Yes, I love it. Now, we said we were going to circle back to this, so you mentioned protein shakes in there. Obviously, protein shakes make you big and bulky if you take them, so women should probably avoid those, correct?
Yeah, that's actually 100% true. No. I just usually describe protein powder as your portable chicken breast or egg. You do not have to take protein powder to build muscle. However, is it convenient? Absolutely. So I mentioned putting it in your oatmeal. In the morning, I don't personally want to cook eggs every day. I like eggs, but that might be more of a weekend thing for me. So me personally, it's really easy that I could either make a shake on the side or I can throw it in something and have it. If I'm working out in the afternoon or evening and I'm going home to have an actual meal that contains some sort of protein, I do not need to take in an additional protein shake before I get to that meal. So all of your meats have all of the amino acids that you need, so you do not need to go buy a protein supplement. Now, if you're working out, your next meal is not going to be for a few hours. We can treat that as like a snack, and yeah, we could have a protein shake maybe with some fruit, so we're getting something in the body to start that recovery process. Otherwise, it's a completely optional supplement.
Yes, and I think that's important to point out that it's called a supplement because it is there to supplement your normal dietary intake. So again, if you're eating sufficient amounts of that protein, you don't necessarily need to supplement it with a shake. And what's funny is I'm actually like the opposite of you. Like in the morning, I would say I would rather die than have oatmeal and protein for breakfast. And I think it's because when I'm dieting for a competition, I eat so much oatmeal and protein powder that like when I'm not taking my diet as seriously and trying to cut down like that, I just want nothing to do with it. And so sometimes I do make it just because I'm in a hurry and I don't have time to cook, my 300 gram of carb eggs and potatoes. But I come to work with this big, huge bowl of oatmeal and I just eat it with a scowl on my face the entire time because I'm miserable from it. But, so that is protein supplementation. Anything else you want to add to that?
No, I mean, I usually just say, again, like I kind of mentioned, it's an optional thing, but it's a convenient thing. So I never think it hurts to have it, and especially if it's somebody that's an athlete or a college student or somebody who's just on the go a lot more, it does make it a lot easier, prep-wise and preparing to get enough protein. For an average female, I would say if they're getting somewhere around like 0.8 grams per pound is plenty of protein to allow that, optimal muscle growth. And so, for me, I'm about 135 pounds. That puts me close to 110 grams of protein a day. And so if you're not somebody who is going to make eggs or you don't cook a lot of meat, then a protein supplement is a good way to just add, you can add a shake with a meal or as part of a snack, but we can use other things like eggs and milk and dairy products, Greek yogurt, cheeses, things like that to get adequate protein. But I think it just really does depend on the person.
Yes, I love it. All right, well, we've talked about carbs, we've talked about protein, we've hit the nutrition pretty heavy. Let's get back into the actual weight training side of things. So let's talk about what your training has looked like, particularly recently, because I know you've been hitting it hard lately with the programs that I've been giving you. And actually, I'll preface this with what we have Allison doing right now is kind of a hybrid powerlifting / bodybuilding programming, which everything about that screams that she should be big and bulky. If lifting weights makes women bulky, she should be huge.
Yeah, so we started testing my max and my 1 rep max with deadlifts, squats, and bench press. And I have personal goals for myself of what I want those numbers to be. So that's why this program kind of sounded more appealing to me. Typically, if I'm just doing my own thing, naturally, like I mentioned, I do some sort of cardio a few days a week. It might be a jog or a walk with the dogs. It might be sprints. I've been doing some sprint training once or twice a week. Maybe a 3-mile run, but no heavy long distance cardio. I've definitely dialed that back a good bit from what I used to do. And then I'm focusing more so on, getting stronger with the workouts. So the plan I'm currently following, which again you designed, has me basically building up and trying to increase that 1 rep max.
Yes, for anyone who is familiar with any kind of weight training or powerlifting, I have her on what I call a modified 5-3-1 program. Is what I've been using with my athletes more, and with myself actually, just trying to get those compound movement numbers up while still incorporating the hypertrophy and athletic performance type training on the side. So, what do we have? You benching Monday, squatting Wednesday, and deadlifting Saturday. I think we have.
Yeah, I was even gonna just kind of pull up. And it's
just read it off, give away my secrets.
No, and there's other exercises around it, but today was a lot of chest and back. Where tomorrow there's a lot, more arms incorporated. Third day is where I'm going to do some squats and box jumps and hip thrusts, and really just working on getting stronger in those areas. And then we have, looks like another kind of chest day, different push-ups and flies and pull-ups and things like that. And yeah, you have all kinds of fun stuff in here, but
it's a blast.
Yeah, deadlifts and RDLs, and so it's really hitting still all the major muscles, and even things I wouldn't typically do, like calf raises or exercises for my forearms. So I feel like it's good because I might be doing a really heavy deadlift, but maybe I'm supersetting it with something lighter or easier but I'm still getting stronger in those areas.
Yes, keeping the time efficient while still doing very, very effective muscular strength work. I love that you are incorporating the sprints and things like that, because that is helping us build up that explosiveness and that power output in the posterior chain. So your entire backside of your body, from your back down to your ankles, really is called your posterior chain, which is where all your power for things like deadlifts and deep squats and sprinting that comes from. And so we want to make sure that while we're doing those heavy max effort movements, she's also incorporating some speed stuff that allows her to maintain her power output, which is her ability to exert force quickly. And that is what that's going to do, is help her recruit more muscle fibers to each of those movements and help her not only get stronger in those compound movements like her squat and her bench and her deadlift, but also to move quicker as she sprints. So it really kind of builds off of each other. It complements each other very well, which is why a lot of well-known athletic performance and powerlifting type programming styles follow a max effort day for upper and lower, and then a dynamic effort day for upper and lower, which is your heavy day versus your speed day or your power movement type day. And so having gone through that, you guys can see that we aren't having her lifting the pink 3-pound dumbbells for sets of 15 reps. We have her doing a week where she's doing 5 reps at mid to high percent over 1RM. A day where she's doing 3 reps at an even higher percent over 1RM. And then a day where she's doing 1 rep. And each of those has a final set where you're repping out as many as you can. She's lifting some heavy weight. And she's moving some impressive numbers around. Like I said, I have a couple different clients doing this right now, and I'm seeing great progress on it. Shout out to Jim Wendler, because I'm sure he's listening to my podcast for the 531. I hope you don't mind my modification for it to fit our programming style a little bit better. But again, I want to emphasize here that while we have her lifting this heavy weight and training really hard, 6 days a week we have you lifting, she's not blowing up and looking like a bodybuilder that's been running testosterone for the last 3 years. She looks like a pretty feminine girl that can also kick your butt if need be. She has
that's the purpose behind it.
She has that toned look.
Yeah, no, I think it's been a learning experience for myself as well because, I mean, when you start school for nutrition, you don't have all the answers. And so I was that person that ate very little carbs, did a ton of cardio. And when I look back at pictures of myself, I wish I knew now I wish I knew then what I know now. That's what I want to say.
Yeah. Don't we all?
Because it would have just really changed the game for me if I was training that way from, my early 20s. I really didn't get into exercise until college. I played sports in high school, and that was my main form of exercise, but never really any lifting. And the programs that exist now, and like what you do here with the athletes is so great. And I don't know if I was just oblivious to it or it's just gotten bigger now, but if that kind of stuff, if I had taken advantage of it, I mean, it really would have changed the game, and even what I'm doing now, like box jumping and sprinting and broad jumps and all these things, like I can see myself improving now. I'm not preparing for any sport performance, but it's cool to be able to do that and stacking plates on top of the box and being able to jump higher and higher. I would have been blocking so many shots in basketball back in the day if I was doing that. But
yeah, maybe the high schoolers on your team wouldn't be snuffing your shots now.
Yeah. But, yeah, so it's, I think it all comes down to what your personal goals are. But more times than not, you get the, like, I want to have arms like this person or, I want to...
A butt.
Yeah, I want that girl's butt. And you have to build the muscle and you have to, shred the fat down around it. It depends where you start at and, how you're going into it. But the biggest takeaway, I would say, is if you're looking to build muscle, don't skimp on the carbs and be willing to go into the gym and, not just pick up a light weight that you can do, 15 to 20 to 30 reps on, pick up some heavier weight and go to failure and,
challenge yourself.
Yeah.
Challenge yourself.
And that's hard to do on your own. A lot of times it's like, and we had that discussion earlier today with the client, like, hey, go heavier in the weight. Because when you're by yourself, it's easy just to get in that routine and go through the motions. But if you start tracking, the amount of weight you're doing each week, and you can see that, you can kind of keep going up, and that's really where you're going to see the muscle growth and the changes in your body. And it's been life-changing for me. So it's something I plan to continue to do for the rest of my life.
Yeah, and that's a really simple way that I like to break it down for people too. Like from week to week, I'll say, okay, last week you did 20 pounds for 8 reps on these 3 sets. So you got a total of 24 reps at 20 pounds. This week I want you to do one of 2 things. I either want you to bump that up to 30 pounds and do however many reps again, or I want you to beat those 24 total reps that you got on those sets. So in some way, shape, or form, you're progressing that, and you're overloading your body in some way to continue that progress and keep building. And like I said, it's all about finding that willingness and that motivation to not be afraid to do that because you think you're going to suddenly blow up. Which, so as just a final or ending type note here, it's insulting to me. I always get so mad about this because I'm like, okay, so this girl doesn't want to lift weights because she doesn't want to get big and bulky. And I've been lifting since I was in 6th grade, trying to get as big and bulky as possible, and have consistently been disappointed in my progress for the last 14 years of lifting. And so it takes so much more work and so much more time and effort than you realize. And when you can finally acknowledge that to yourself and realize that it's not just gonna you're not just gonna fall into a bodybuilder's body. That takes so much time. You
really have to be eating a lot and training very, very heavy for that to happen.
The amount that you have to eat, that's what I don't think you guys realize. The amount that you have to eat. You have those people that say, "Oh, I eat so much." I'm like, let me tell you about how I eat. And then after that, they're standing at you like wide-eyed, jaw on the floor. Like, yeah, okay. That's me not gaining the muscle that I want to gain. Like that's how much I'm eating and not gaining. So shut up, eat some carbs, eat some protein, and lift some heavy weight.
And I think one just final important note, like with starting, because I've had a few people who get discouraged because they've started lifting weights and the scale goes up a little bit and they think they're gaining a lot of weight. And they have to remember that, weightlifting in general, it's going to draw water into the muscle. It's going to be a little bit more inflammatory. So a lot of times when you start something new, the body does hold on to a little bit of fluid. And so it's not weight gain. It's just your body responding to that stimulus initially. It does go away. It does kind of even out. But, if you just hit biceps hard and they're looking a little puffy, like there's definitely...
what a feeling that is.
There's definitely, some fluid retention there. So I just wanted to kind of make a note of that.
Yeah, we could have an entire podcast talking about the number on the scale. But this has been a good one. I'm pretty excited about how this podcast has turned out. We can
It's probably going to be the best one.
Undoubtedly the best one, probably ever. I should probably just stop podcasting at this point because this will never be talked.
If you want me to just take over the show, let me know.
Yeah, you know what? From now on, this is the Allison Wade Starbucks podcast, and I'll see you guys later. No, but Allison, I appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to be on this show and give some knowledge to these people out here. I know you've been waiting for a while to be on here so eagerly, and I'm glad we were finally able to make that happen.
Me too. It's a straight blizz-ass. I hope you have me again.
After that, I just don't know if that's going to happen. All right, well, hey, thank you everybody for listening this far. Tune in sometime in the next month for me to post the next one. Hopefully it'll be 2 weeks from whenever you're listening to this, but I seem to have a really hard time with that. But maybe we'll find another fun guest and get a good show put together for you. Either way, check out Case-Specific Wellness, Case-Specific Nutrition, Case-Specific Meal Prep, Case-Specific Everything. And if you're interested in training with us and getting some of these gains that we've been discussing for the last 47 minutes, you can email me at info@casespecificathletics.com or just jeremiah@casespecificathletics.com. Either way, it'll get to me, and we can get you set up for a free fitness assessment, get you in here, get you working, and start getting you looking toned.
All right, let's end on that.
Let's end on that. Have a good one, guys, and we will talk to you in the next episode.